everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, I want to share 3 messages that were sent to me that I think are very interesting, very validating of things that we've talked about before on the channel, and just interesting happenings in the church. Essentially, things that I think are indications that the second coming is soon. So, before we get into that, here's an update on the Book of Mormon Sharing Challenge. There hasn't been an update since the last video. I'm basically making this video immediately after I made the last one. And so we're at 5,518 copies of the Book of Mormon that have been shared. We have a new report of someone meeting with the missionaries, and that person actually has a baptismal date set. So pray for that person. And hopefully you guys can add to this number of participants. It's only at 545. So please do it. You don't have to, obviously, you don't have to report or anything like that. Just do it anyway, whether you report or you don't. We do have a responsibility to share the gospel with our neighbors and friends. But if you want to help encourage other people to join this challenge and share copies of the Book of Mormon that they otherwise may not have shared, then please let me know when you share one. And make sure to use hashtag flood so I can easily find it and keep the message very short. Okay, so I got this email from Sarah, and I could have sworn somebody else sent me the same story, but I couldn't find it. So, other person, if there is another person, I'm sorry, but all I could find is this from Sarah. Okay, we're gonna do something that she said. We're gonna do something that Elizabeth Howe said, and then we're gonna revisit something that was sent to me a long time ago in December that I think is applicable to what these two new messages say. Okay, so first from Sarah. Hi Jared, I wanted to share something I thought was really special that was shared in my sacrament meeting on Sunday. On Sunday, our stake president announced during sacrament that he was able to attend a big area meeting with Elder Bednar. One of the ideas strongly emphasized was that they are now allowing / encouraging 18-year-old men to receive the Melchizedek priesthood even before graduating from high school. And for young men or women who want to receive their endowment, even if they are not going on a mission or getting married soon, it really struck me that the Lord is wanting to give the rising generation more strength, understanding, and power. It made me think about how important it was for the early saints to get the Kirtland Temple built so they could receive their endowments. I think you're thinking of the Nauvoo Temple because it was the Nauvoo Temple where they got their endowments before making the pioneer trek. How they needed that added measure of power as they crossed the plains. It would seem the Lord is wanting to prepare as many as possible for whatever challenges that lie ahead. And I would totally agree. Who knows what that is? It could be difficult, like difficulties and trials. That's one possibility. But I think another thing is preparing for large numbers of people to join the church. And I'm going to get into that in just a second. Okay, continuing, she says, also think about the 2 talks given in this last general conference about the importance of receiving your patriarchal blessing and that there is no age limit on that. These things are personal and should be done when the individual feels prompted to do it. They are ready. Yeah, so when the individual feels prompted to do it, they are ready. My stake president didn't say anything about these impressions that I had or mention anything about the coming of Christ, like I've heard emphasized from other stake presidents who attended other area meetings like this with an apostle. He kept it short and simple. I may not have had these thoughts about these young men and women needing access to God's power through the temple covenants if I had not been doing the things the prophet has asked us to study. For example, promises to covenant Israel, study of the priesthood and women, how to hear him, look for miracles, overcome the world, and to focus on the temple. Studying those things have really taught me so much in how to have eyes to see and ears to hear. Your videos help me to keep my focus on the Savior and being ready for his return. Thank you. These are things are exciting. God bless Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. That is really interesting. And, you know, you kind of got this sense a little bit in General Conference. I can't, not so much last one, but I think it was the April 2022 General Conference where something had been said about young women, young adult women going and getting their endowments and not necessarily waiting for a mission or getting married, which is a departure from how I grew up, the way that things were done before. So this is kind of in line with that. Now, I had never heard this before about uh, young men getting the Melchizedek priesthood um, that young. Uh, yeah, because I mean, if I remember, I didn't get it until after high school. Yeah, so that's new. Now, before I get into these other two email or messages and email, let's do a quick review of something that we talked about before. Okay, so in a fireside, Brad Wilcox said that essentially, what does the church do when the second coming happens? And you have a billion people in a day, 1 billion, 2 billion people in a day that want to join the true church. You know, they're ready. They're not holding on to their old religion or belief system. They accept Christ when he comes and believe that this church is his church. So I did a little, exercise here based on Dodge City, Kansas. Dodge City, from what I could tell on the Meeting House Locator website, they have a ward. Okay. Now, say that ward has 300 people and 15 Melchizedek priesthood holders. Let's just say that that's what's going on in Dodge City, Kansas. Um, so let's say that um, we took the current population of Dodge City, which is almost 28,000. Let's say that only 50% remain after the second coming. Okay, 50% were telestial, the rest were terrestrial by virtue of their virtuous lives. They're trying to do the best that they can. They're good people, and then celestial people. So 50% remain. And then let's say that 70% of those want to join the church. That would amount to all of a sudden 9,725 people in Dodge City, Kansas that want to join the church. And all you have there currently is a ward that's typical size, which I don't know for sure, but let's just say that it is. So you see how all of a sudden, in like a day or two, uh, things could get really interesting really fast with a high demand for priesthood holders that are available to perform baptisms, for example, um, and then to participate in all the work of salvation, including the temple. You know, all these people, once they get on the covenant path by getting baptized, they're going to want to progress down the covenant path. And part of the covenant path is going to the temple. It's kind of like uh, the rest of the covenant path after baptism and receiving the Holy Ghost and the sacrament. So I think the church is thinking about this. They're probably being inspired to think about this challenge. And so what do you do? Well, you probably want to have as many hands on deck as possible to receive all these people and help them perform their own ordinances, um, right? Because they're not dead, they're not in the spirit world. All of a sudden, you're going to have all these live people that are going through for themselves, being baptized and going through the temple. And then we looked at the world. Uh, and I just did like rough calculations here. Um, Basically, if the church suffered the same fate, if only half made it through to the second coming, if half was actually telestial, the tares, then we would only have about 8.4 million people after that, and then the beginning number of Melchizedek priesthood holders would be roughly 420,000 people to take care of a remaining 2 billion people that want to join the church. These are just rough numbers. Okay, I'm not going through all the details of this, but like you get the idea that there's going to be probably a big demand for priesthood holders, those that can baptize and those that can perform all the other ordinances, including the need for female workers in the temple, right? Ordinance workers. So all hands on deck. So could you see why maybe as we approach the second coming, maybe it would be really useful and be very wise to have as many young people as possible. Just go ahead and let's get you the Melchizedek priesthood and get you into the temple. So with that in mind, let's review what was said here. We already read this email. This is from Elliot Morel. This was back in December 7th. Okay, look at this. Hello, Jared. I watch almost all your videos and quite enjoy them, though I am probably considered in the quote unquote other camp in regards to how I think some things will play out. For the record, I hope you are right and I am wrong. Your interpretation, supported in some ways by the words of our leaders, sound like a better path, but I'm not on board yet. I hope that's okay. No, absolutely not. Just kidding. Of course it's okay. Nonetheless, as a fellow member of Christ Restored Church and one who is watching with great anticipation for events that we both deem to be imminent, I want to share something really cool with you. There is a widowed lady in my ward who is in her early 70s. She is a scriptorian who teaches institute and a very busy ordinance worker at the Logan, Utah temple. As the elders quorum president in the ward, I visited her once and felt the spirit telling me to tell her that I feel that we as members of the church need to be striving urgently for the blessings of Zion. She didn't comment much on this, and it seemed like she thought I was missing the mark a little bit. I left feeling a bit silly. That event happened probably about 4 months ago. However, this last fast and testimony meeting in December, she stood to bear her testimony and shared something that I think is incredible. And it seems to have changed her view entirely regarding the times we are in. She stated that the ordinance workers in the Logan Temple have been receiving recurring trainings as of late, wherein they've been counseled that the stakes in the Logan area will be working to get as many college-aged adults to work as ordinance workers as possible. This sister and her fellow ordinance workers were counseled to really focus on these younger adults and helping them to understand the work to the best of their abilities and to work with their schedules, no matter how inconvenient. Example, if the individual can only work part of a shift, just roll with it. The temple president clearly and emphatically stated that the reason for this is because these young adults will be the primary group to build New Jerusalem, and thus they need a good understanding of temple work and officiating. The temple president then went on to tell the group that they, the older ordinance workers, may experience doubts about this, but they, the younger incoming workers, have been prepared and are ready for this special work. I was sitting in the very back of the chapel during her testimony and was giving myself whiplash by nodding my head so hard. It was such a treat to hear this. I know that coming from me, who heard it from another person who heard it from the temple president, is a bit removed, but I very much believe that she spoke the truth and I felt it. I hope you can feel it too. Love you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm trying to build up the courage to start the Book of Mormon in the way you have invited us to do. What a worthy cause for. Start sharing. Okay, start sharing the Book of Mormon in the way you have invited us to do. What a worthy cause for us. Sincerely, Elliot. Again, Elliot, thank you for this email. And I believe you because it's not really far fetched. It's not really that extraordinary of a claim. I mean, preparing to build the New Jerusalem. And I don't take that as meaning like literally going to Independence, Missouri, like the college age student or the college age um, adults going to Independence, Missouri to literally build up the temple there. I'm thinking that in that definition, we're talking about the church as being New Jerusalem, which is one of the definitions of New Jerusalem. But anyway, we can disagree on that. I don't know how you see that or not, but it makes sense. It makes sense. I feel like this jives with what Sarah said. And then now let's look at what Elizabeth Howe says. She says, "Hello again. Some news here in the ranches northwest of Saratoga Springs. Our chapels and stake centers are in the process of adding baptismal fonts, quote unquote, in specific rooms that were designated for that purpose when the chapels and stake centers were built. This remodeling is going on at this present time. I thought you'd find this very interesting." Now, what I don't know, I don't know if this was a typo right here, where she says baptismal fonts in specific rooms that were designed or were designated, because it would be really interesting if they're building baptismal fonts in rooms that were not designated for that purpose. So, uh, she'll see this video, and then I'll get her to clarify that. And Elizabeth, if you could just like put it in the comments, maybe let me know if you meant to say weren't or were designated. Either way, it doesn't really matter either way, because the fact remains that those baptismal fonts have not been constructed yet, and there's a remodeling that's going on to add them. So either way, more interesting if those rooms weren't originally designated for baptismal fonts. But either way, still significant. And remember, the Salt Lake Temple, one of its new, after its remodel, it's going to have two baptismal fonts. Let's see, Salt Lake Temple, two baptismal fonts. Let's go to this. The two baptismal fonts will be located on the lower level of what will be a new temple annex north of the main temple. It's too bad they don't have a picture of it, though. I know that there's one article out there where there is a picture of it. Let's go to images. Yeah, here it is. Well, I'm not. That's from like a blog, but there's an actual article from like Deseret News or somebody that showed it. Well, whatever. I'll show it from the blog. They got it from Church News or something, and you can go visit the blog. So let's go here. This week in Mormons.com. So this is what the new baptismal font's going to look like in the Salt Lake Temple. So I feel like there's a pretty clear message there that they expect to do more baptisms, more baptisms for the dead in this baptismal font. We know that the millennium, one of the primary activities taking place during the millennium is work for the dead. So maybe things are going to kind of ramp up as we get more members of the church that join the church, and then in turn, once they do the ordinances for themselves, go on to the temple and do the work for their dead. So I can't remember, like this article says, is this the norm? I'd already looked into this a long time ago, probably about a year ago, and no, it's not the norm, and most of you probably already know that. But there are a few temples, not just the Salt Lake Temple, but there's at least a couple other ones that are going to have two baptismal fonts. If you know which ones those are, put it in the comments below so people can look at that. So I feel like that's another indication that they're expecting growth and more people participating in the work of salvation. Okay, so I'll put the link for this this website here in the description below. And then I wanted to come back to my spreadsheet here where I listed, it looks like 20 different items, changes in the church that I think free up people to do the ordinance work or prepare the church, position the church in such a way that it can receive uh, a big influx of people. Okay, So, for example, I'm not going to go through all these because I already did a video on this, but um, okay. So, for example, the first presidency announces discontinuation of time-only marriages in temples. Why? Sealing rooms needed for new members. No more time-only marriages anyway, because we're moving into the millennium. Okay, that was in that was May 24th, 2021, May 6th of 2021. Let's see. No, sorry. Let me try and pick these. Um, pick the more pertinent ones. Okay, April General Conference of 2021. President Nelson announces 20 new temples, the most announced by the church at one time. Lots of temples, right? It's no secret. He now holds the record for number of temples announced. It used to be President Hinckley, now it's President Nelson, and it seems like the church anticipates the need for more temples. Um, okay. Uh, young ward young men presidencies are discontinued. What does this do? Well, now the bishop, who is the president of the Aaronic priesthood in his ward, he directly teaches the young men and works with them, which frees up what would have been those three young men leaders. I think actually four, because I think there would be like I can't remember the exact name of the calling, but you'd have like the president, his two counselors, and then a secretary for the young men. I don't think that they were called president. I can't remember. But anyway, those four men that would have been in with the youth are now freed up to be in elders quorum. For example, when you have like, say you have 100 new people from outside the church that just recently joined your ward, and they have lots of questions. They have lots of questions. What is this new church that I joined? What's the gospel? How do things work? Well, so if you have like additional people in elders quorum, for example, you probably want to have more people in there to help answer questions and help things go the right way in elders quorum. I think that might also be a reason why they combined the high priest and the elders quorum into one, because then you have more uh, priesthood holders that have experience in the church, where everyone can be in the same room and help answer questions for new members as the church just suddenly grows all of a sudden. Okay, this was a big one. Women, youth, and children may now serve as witnesses of sealing and baptismal ordinances. Again, it used to be that it had to be two priesthood holders, but that's not the case anymore. So imagine a scenario where you have like a Saturday, um, or maybe like a Friday and a Saturday that's been designated for baptisms of all these people in Dodge City. Or maybe it's like every day of the week except for Sunday, or maybe including Sunday. I don't know. And it's like we need all priesthood holders that can baptize uh, to be baptizing. And then we'll have the women, youth, children. It's okay. They can serve as witnesses. There's nothing doctrinal that says that it has to be priesthood holders. So that's what we'll do. We'll have them be witnesses, and then we'll have the priesthood holders doing the actual baptizing, because we need them because of the vast number of people that need to be baptized. There's a bunch of other stuff. You can visit this yourself. This is under my spreadsheet. The tab is called Timeline Church Second Coming Preparation. And you can look through all these different things that seem to um, indicate that the church is preparing for a large number of people to join the church, probably in the near future. You take that, all the changes in the church, along with anecdotes like this. Of course, take it with a grain of salt, but I trust these people. And I feel like I've heard a lot of similar things like this in other comments and emails and stuff like that. It's not really too far fetched. Um, so yeah, I think that's what's going on. We're preparing, we're getting ready for what's about to happen. But like Sarah said, some of it could be for future trials or challenges. We do know that's been said essentially in general conference how you go to the temple, you receive the blessings of power and great glory. You have angels that attend you afterwards. There's special protection that attends you after you go to the temple. And in a time like this where things are just so spiritually toxic everywhere, just evil is increasing on all sides, um, there is a greater need for protection. And so it probably serves for that as well. So, yeah. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this one. So, thank you guys for your message and emails. If you guys haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.